everyone. Welcome back to I Hate It Here. I'm Hiba, your host and resident hater, an HR person just trying to get through another week without screaming endlessly into a pillow. This season, we're deep in the HR evolution. Every episode, we're looking at how this job is changing, what's actually working, and what no one's saying out loud. And today, we're getting into something that I think is wildly underrated, and I talk about actually quite a bit: change management. Here's the thing. Every org right now is juggling new tools, restructuring, role eliminations, and then trying to bolt on AI fluency to everything all at the same time. And leadership loves to talk about strategy because strategy is sexy. Strategy gets put in the board deck, but strategy actually means nothing if people don't trust the why, feel some control in the how, and believe leadership actually has their back through it. And change management is that unsexy thing that decides whether any of it actually works. And to be honest, I think a lot of leaders are getting really lazy about change management. They want a tool or an agent to do the human part for them. But the actual reality is it can't. And my guest today has lived this experience from the inside. Kaity Jacobsen serves as the Director of Talent Engagement at Xactly, leading forward-thinking people programs at the intersection of talent, technology, and AI. Over a decade of in-house HR experience in high-growth environments has shaped her expertise in aligning people performance with business strategy. She specializes in guiding executive teams through rapid change and designing resilient talent systems built for real-world execution. Kaity is known for her deep business acumen, sound judgment, and a leadership style that balances empathy with accountability. And today, her work centers on evolving talent systems for the future of work, optimizing team dynamics as human and AI capabilities converge. Outside of Xactly, Kaity channels her passions for connection as the co-founder of Alta, a curated community for women in tech across the Phoenix corridor. Kaity, did I say any of that incorrectly? I got your first name, last name, Xactly, Alta, all of it correct?
You did it. You nailed it.
That was what a bio. Welcome to the pod. As a pod listener, is this an exciting day for you?
This is so exciting. I'm nervous. I'm excited. I'm feeling all the feels. But I am just really excited to be joined with you. I'm a huge fangirl of everything that you've built and you do. And I'm excited to chat with you and hang out for the next hour.
We were just being such dorks at Transform too, where we were just like, talking at each other, and it was so fun. And I was like, this needs to be a pod episode. Like, I should have pulled out my phone and been like, record, because our conversation was so fun and exciting then. And I was just blown away about all the things you and I were talking about, from like AI. And when you were like, I want to talk about change management on this episode, I was like, say no more. Because if I could talk about something till I'm blue in the face, it is change management. Like, we have forgotten that human beings need to be guided through a change. The just figure it out attitude is like kind of bad.
And in this world of AI, we are moving faster than ever and we're doing a lot, and we can do that. That's the thing, is that I'm like very passionate about, like, we can do it. We can do it all, but we need to do it with intention, because we've got humans on the other side of this. And if you want to do it right, you got to bring them along. And the only way to bring them along is to think about that change management, change adoption. So let's yap on it. I'm excited.
Can't wait. Before we get to that, I've been asking every guest this season, what's something about how you work now that would have surprised you 5 years ago?
I feel like there's so much over the last 5 years. I feel like I've changed, I've evolved. I'm doing more than I ever expected. But in particular, the thing that I think would surprise me the most is I think I would be shocked by how comfortable I am on pushing back on like standard best practice HR items. Thinking back, even just like a couple years ago, I was like, we need to do an annual engagement survey, and we need to do performance management, and we need to do it twice a year, and it needs to be on a 3-5 skill rating. And now I look at some of those things, and before I do anything, I'm like, but why? And is there data that validates that this is a good use of our time? And if the data doesn't show year over year that people actually are driving performance or are coming out more motivated from a performance review, then I'm like, I'm just not going to do it. And I'm going to push back. And I have a lot of people that will question me like, but don't you, like, what happens if we don't do it? And I'm like, but what happens if we do and nothing comes out of it? I feel like then all the other programs that I want to run that are new and, kind of crazy ideas, I'm not going to get adoption in those either. So now I think what's different for me is if I'm rolling something out in the workplace, it's because I deeply believe that it's going to land and it's going to do the thing that I'm saying it's going to do. And people are more inclined to want to join me on that journey. And because of that, I'm actually able to do more than I was doing before. Cause I'm less like, I'm not nagging people to like, get that survey in or, get your feedback in. So I just think like I'm braver than I was 5 years ago. And I'm quicker to be like, we're not going to do that checkbox thing. Cause that just isn't going to move the needle in ways that we need it to now.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. When you said like, I push back on best practices, I think like a few episodes ago, I was like, I'm so tired of people being like, this is the best practice. I'm like, it's a best practice for who? Because It's maybe not a best practice for me or my organization or where we are. Like, who is this a best practice for? So I love that you say you're not going to do it unless you actually think it can add value, because it does feel like sometimes we're just like masquerade playing in corporate America and like corporate the musical. Like we're all just like doing things because we've always had to do them, right? And I'm tired of that.
Yes. I love that. And as like a musical girly, I mean, I do want to be in that musical, but I want to be in the one that is really, really good and that people want to be a part of. And I feel like the HR programs, like, I don't know anybody that really enjoys going through performance management, but I also don't know anyone that is serious about their career that isn't dying for feedback regularly. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, let's figure out a way to like scrap that performance management thing and let's get them feedback every day in a way that matters and that feels good for them. So I'm definitely trying things differently now. I'm flipping programs on their head. We're chucking spaghetti at the wall. It is not uncommon that I look at my team and I'm like, okay, but what if? And I'm like throwing new ideas out there. And some of them people have to reel me in and they're like, okay, that's a little too crazy, but I'm really just deeply rooted in the data that supports why are we showing up? Why are we doing these things? And I think it's just been a different approach. I'm no more checkbox HR programs.
We would be so chaotic on a team together because you'd be like, what if this? And I'd be like, and what if that? And then you'd be like, and what if this? And we would just like spend the whole meeting doing that.
Yeah, no, it's a little bit like my CHRO and I, we do have those moments. And luckily we have a couple other members of our HR leadership team that will ground us and like pull us back in because, we get big. I call them my radical ideas. I think it's really important also that I'm like working for a leader that would support me in that way and that stands behind me with the executive team when we say like, we're not going to do that annual engagement survey because the last two that we didn't act on the data. And so now we're asking people to spend time giving us information and we're not resourced or prepared to actually make changes in that way right now. So,
would like to be a fly on the wall in those meetings because I'd be like, and what if this? And what if that? Also, corporate the musical, should we write it? It could be there could be a whole scene about throwing the HR programs out of the wall, out of the window.
I love nothing more. Absolutely.
I'm just going to ghost write a few lines to a song and text them to you. And you'll be like, what the F is going on? And I'll be like, oh, I'm writing corporate, the musical.
I will quickly send you my songs that go alongside it. So no, we will be the duo.
I can't wait. A whole team. I just want feedback where a direct report sings about how they desperately want feedback from their manager. Okay. Before we take this bit way too far, which I am envisioning a future episode where you do come back and we cover all of this. I want to get into our topic of like change management because you have seen so much. Like you've navigated a number of acquisitions from the inside, most recently at Classy going into GoFundMe. And you weren't just like an outside party they consulted. You actually managed it and like lived this whole experience. And I think that type of like acquisition experience can teach you so much about change management. So I just want to hear from you, like what did you learn from that experience for people who maybe have not had to experience an acquisition and merge it into their current HR reality?
I have been quite lucky in having the opportunity in my career to work at many companies that have gone through acquisitions. Typically, I'm working at the company that's being acquired. I know some of my friends, they call me like a magic rabbit foot because they're like, any company where Kaity goes, I'm going because it's going to get acquired. And I'm like, okay, I have nothing to do with this. I sit on the backside doing checkbox HR programs, but whatever we're doing, it works. No, but I do think that early in my career, I remember going through some situations and particularly like conversations that I anticipated being really, really challenging. Before I was able to give credit where credit was due, I remember telling people the conversations that I anticipate being the hardest, or the situations that I anticipate being the hardest, actually end up being like no problem. It is the conversations that I expect that are going to be easy or going to be fast or like land really well. Those are the ones that like I always end up getting caught off guard. And for a long time in my career, I was like, it's just, you never know what you're going to get. And now I actually can understand that the hard conversations that went well, it's because I poured such an incredible amount of time into prepping for those situations, grounding people around me, anticipating curveballs, knowing how I was going to bob and weave depending on what came my way. And some of those easy conversations threw me for a loop because I took the prep for granted. So I do think that a large part of going through some of these situations, I've learned that you just can't prep enough, and prepping people around you is really important. I also think that being a part of acquisitions and having the opportunity to be a part of those as in-house HR, it's largely about like human intimacy and understanding the people that you're working with. When you deeply understand your audience and the people that you are trying to get to come along on the ride with you, seeing how they consistently have shown up and responded in these moments, I think makes a big difference. And I have not done fractional or consulting HR at that capacity. And I know some fantastic fractional HR leaders. I know some of them are your friends. I listen to them on the podcast. I read their books. And I'm sure that like they have the magical ability to understand people at that level. But for me in-house, it's like through consistent interactions with people, I'm learning how they're going to respond to some of these changes, which helps me prep and get grounded in getting everyone prepared. And I just don't see how I could do that without being like that in-house HR. And I recently switched to a new company, and like the first 6 months, a lot of what I'm doing is observing and taking notes on how people are showing up and the leaders. How are they delivering messages? And do they land the plane there? Or like, do I need to be their co-pilot in the room, feeding them like, don't forget to say this? Am I scripting it for them? Or can I just send them with the why and they take off and go? And so my first 6 months at my company is really understanding to be able to support some change adoption in that way.
Yeah, it's so interesting how we all react to change differently, right? Like we are all humans having different reactions. And I think like all the things that I have learned in HR, it's been because I have been in the experience and somebody has reacted a certain way. So then when I'm like working on the problem in the future, I'm like, I know employees are going to ask X, Y, and Z. Like every time we go through a process change, I always have an FAQ section at the bottom, and I write in like the most foul questions I think employees are going to ask. And I'm like, here's a question. Here's how you would respond to it if you're a manager. Here's a question. Here's how you would respond to it if you were a leader. Like just to help people, because I think like that is a really big core skill that a lot of people either don't think about or haven't been through massive change in an organization. So don't know like how rapidly it can get out of hand.
Yeah, totally.
We've seen it like go sideways so many times. Like, but I think the thing about change management that really gets me is like so many people treat it as this like soft skill instead of an actual tool and vessel to land the strategy correctly. Why do you think people act like that?
I don't know. It's such a funny thing because I do get that reaction from leaders. And when you're in the HR business partner spot or in the senior HR position, we do have the opportunity to walk side by side with leaders on sometimes building the strategy and then also planning around driving the strategy through with change adoption and change management. And I think it comes down to comfort zones. Often a lot of those leaders that I'm partnering with, like they would say that it's so much easier to sit in a room and look at data and draft this brilliant strategy than it is to do the hard work of shifting the human behavior. And so often in these conversations, when I'm talking with leaders, they say to me, I could never do your job. I don't know how you do this. I'm so grateful that I have a partner with you. And, people throw change management into the soft skills bucket because it involves empathy and communication skills and vulnerability. And I mean, my hot take, which could be a podcast in itself, but is that soft skills are usually the hardest, but the most critical skills that leaders have. And they're the differentiator between a fantastic leader and just an okay leader. And so, sure, if people want to throw change management into this bucket of soft skills, I'm like, have at it, because the leaders that do it really well, I think are some of the best leaders on the planet.
Yeah, I would agree. When people don't want to talk about the change management plan, I'm just like, they don't get it. Like they either don't want something to actually change, or they don't have the capacity to think through how things are going to change. One time my CEO was like, maybe you should just like lead all the change management because like you're so good at it. And I was like, no, we as executives, every single one of us has to be good at it because we are trying to drive our strategy through. Like, I understand, like at the end, like the humans are technically my responsibility as the head of HR, but I'm like, but every executive should be thinking with the lens of, if this thing is different, how do I bring people on this path with me to show them what the change is going to be, because that's going to land their strategy. And so like, for me, I think change management should be a core competency for any executive leader.
Yeah.
And I just feel like
absolutely.
a lot of them look to HR because they're like, oh, it's a human thing. So like HR should do it. And I'm like,
Yeah, no. And I'm like, listen, I will set you up for success. I will help you. The way that I see it is like, strategy is like picking a destination, but the change management, it is getting on the plane and getting that spot for your overhead baggage, and then having a smooth flight and landing early. And then everyone gets off the plane at this beautiful destination and you're off. But like, if you don't do it well, it is a turbulent, it is a bumpy ride. You might have to have an emergency landing and you may not even get to your destination at all. And so I'm like, I can be with you side by side, but like, you are driving the plane and you are going to be the person that gets everyone there. But I'll be by your side and I'll help make sure that we like don't miss anything on the way.
I love that analogy. I'm going to think about that. That's going to live rent free in my head. The plane analogy.
I'm a big analogy person. So just wait. I'm sure I have many more coming. But yeah, I think, and it's just so funny, the soft skills of it all. It's like, can we rebrand these things? Because they're not easy. They actually are incredible. Like, they're the hardest part about leadership.
They're the hardest parts of leadership. Like, oh, you think communicating is a soft skill? Be so effing for real. Good communicators are so few and far between. I'm like, they're hard to find. Like, that is a core competency. It's not soft. There's nothing soft about effective communication. And it does. I feel like somebody on LinkedIn was trying to rebrand them as like business skills or something. I don't know. But I would love for us to stop calling them soft skills, because they're definitely not soft and they're like mission critical for the future, honestly. Let's play a quick game. Let's pressure test this. What does it actually look like when people trust the why of a change versus when they don't? Like, what are some tells that we can keep our eye on if we've lost someone?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I should probably like set the stage and say that I think it is like par for the course in HR to have had a rough landing in change management. Like, any person in HR that is like, I have successfully driven change management in every single thing, I'm like, phony. No, you haven't. So I'm like, lies. I see through you. No, I have had a lot of really successful adoption through change, and then I've also had some where I've like learned some things. So I've seen some consistencies, and when I'm like, ooh, we crashed, we did not stick that landing. I think a message when leaders, when they go in and they don't like stick that landing, is when people start questioning why. How I know that they've stuck the landing is when the team immediately goes to like, okay, how are we going to get this done? It's like they are so bought in, they get why this is happening. And now they're like, okay, let's move to the how. How can I help? Or they start like disagreeing on the how. I'm cool with the disagree on the how, but it's when you disagree on the why that I'm like, ooh, we didn't stick that landing and we're going to need to circle back. A good way to tell if you're like, I don't know, did I stick that landing or not, is like, ask for a playback. Like, tell me before we leave this call, why are we doing this? And I think that also will help make sure that you don't create like a bad game of telephone, because those people are likely going to be driving some part of this strategy or a part of it. And you want to make sure that when they're going and telling people the why, that they also are sticking the landing. So I think that's a really good way to be doing it. On the flip side, how a clear way that I can tell when we didn't totally stick the landing. Or maybe that somebody isn't like part of the disagree and commit. Like, I'm okay if you don't agree with the why, but like you do need to commit to it, is when I start to hear people distance themselves and use like third party language, or third person language, which I hear a lot in HR, and I will call you out in 2 seconds. When people are like, well, corporate wants us to do X, Y, Z, or leadership has decided that. And I'm like, oh, you don't want to be like aligned with the why or any part of it. And I'm really quick to be like, hey, pause. Let's peel it back a little. When you say corporate wants us to do X, Y, Z, who is that person behind corporate? Or when you say leadership is saying X, Y, Z, pause, because leadership is not a human. So I'm going to need to know like who is the person behind that. So I think that also is like a really clear tell that either people like don't understand the why or they are not committing to the why, in which for me that there's misalignment. We got to go back before we can move forward on the strategy.
Yeah, I love that. The thought that ran into my head was when people are like, oh, HR said I can't give you a raise. It's like, HR said that? Really?
Yeah.
You the manager? Like, I've seen so many managers try to cop out of a decision because HR told me I had to do this. And I'm like, no. Like, you could have debated this. This could have been a discussion in the decision. What do you mean? So that third party language, I'm really going to listen to, because I kind of love that. Like, leadership said we had to do this.
Yeah, no, totally. I feel like I hear it all the time when people are like, it's just like a sign of misalignment. It's like when you don't even want to be seen with the person. So you're like, it's not me, it's them. And I'm like, we work for this company. If you're on the leadership team, if you're part of this, then like it's you too. So when you say like the company needs to do X, Y, Z, like it includes you.
You were there too.
That's us.
Like
that's
when
us.
everyone's
so
like, HR is not your friend. I'm like, first of all of these executives have a fiduciary responsibility to the corporation. So if HR is not your friend, neither is the head of sales, neither is the CEO, neither is the SVP, neither is the COO. Like nobody. If we're going to use this analogy, nobody then is your friend, because they all have a responsibility to a board, to the company, to someone else other than you, the individual. I would say HR is probably honestly the best suited to be your friend, but let's not clip that quote, because I'm not trying to get roasted on this internet. Every time someone brings it up on the internet, I'm like, God, please let this end, please.
No, of course.
So we're like in this rapid time of like change and workforce transformation, and it feels like orgs are stacking like more new tools. We're seeing more restructuring happening. AI adoption is being crammed down our throats sometimes. When you're thinking about that, like, is the combination of all of those changes at once actually more dangerous than any one of those changes alone? Or do you think I'm overstating it and I'm being dramatic by saying, all of this change at once is so bad and so much change?
I think it just depends. I go back to like the why. In my mind, I think employees want modernization. Like people want tools that work, that make their work less painful and more effective. And I think even for the most part, your strong talent, they want opportunities, and through restructures come opportunities. Unfortunately, that's part of it. So I think that like employees are far more resilient than we give them credit for. So I don't think that we're overstating it. I don't think that it's inherently dangerous. I think that some of these things are actually necessary. And all of the executives that I partner with, one of the things that they know about me, and my direct reports know this about me, is that I tend to be a yes gal. I believe we can do anything. And I am not someone that's like, that's not possible, because I actually deeply believe that as humans, like we can do anything in the world. It just depends on if we have the resources or if we really want to do those things. Yeah. But I think that like when we're talking about adding all of these things, the trap really is more like speed without clarity is, I think it just shows up as chaos. So when we're stacking tools, AI, rollout, and restructures, it's not what breaks the organization. I don't think that's the case at all. What breaks is failing to connect all of those changes that you're rolling out back to why you exist, or your vision, or the email that the CEO sent in January talking about over the next 12 months, this is what we're going to accomplish. And when we accomplish it, this is what it's going to look like. If you can tie these large changes that you're rolling out back to any of those things, then I deeply believe that your employees are going to be buckled up and along the ride. The problem that I see is that many of the leaders that are spending weeks and months wrestling with strategic pivots and that are in the room, they forget that their team hasn't been in there for the last couple of weeks. They haven't been in the room. They don't understand the why. They're not on that same mental journey. So I just encourage leaders to slow down a little bit, get people in on that journey, and then let's go, let's take off. Don't wait to do things. Don't pull things back because you're scared that people can't handle it. They can handle it. I just think that you need to be able to deliver and land the messaging.
Yeah. The chaos is when people don't have clarity. Like, I loved that line that you said, because first of all, I love chaos. I'm a chaos queen. My friends from college will tell you I created some chaos, probably not the healthy kind. As an adult, I still think I deal with chaos very well. I've worked at 4 venture-backed startups, okay? Like, if there's anything that is chaos, it's a startup. But I think the thing that you're talking about, you don't want the chaos to be so bad, it's distracting people from the thing that actually needs to get done. And that's why that clarity is so important. I do think people are feeling a lot of change fatigue, but I think my theory is they're feeling that because the change wasn't managed well. It's not because there's a lot of change. It's because we're not managing the change well. And when AI came onto the scene as the new cool kid, I can't believe I just said that. God. Anyways, when AI came onto the scene, it felt like the messaging from outside was replace. We're going to replace you all. And that messaging, I think, also was a media play to drive up the valuation of companies, to make people scared that, my job might get replaced. And then we're looking at the studies, and a lot of the results coming out is you can't actually replace a lot of the roles. And I wish the messaging from the very beginning had been enable, here's how we're going to enable you. And something we did because we didn't want that chaos to happen at work week. We were we do not want our employees to think we're trying to replace them, when we all along have always talked about it as we're trying to enable you. We're trying to create more time in your day for you to go do deeper work and to work on the things that will drive the business forward, not do more work. We have never said do more work. We have just said do deeper, have more time to do deeper and more exciting work. And I think we landed the plane really well versus other orgs that were AI manifesto, all of you must use AI. It's going to replace jobs. It's going to change the world. And I'm that caused chaos. And back to your point, employees want clarity. They do not want the chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. I also would encourage companies kind of back to what I'm doing differently than 5 years ago. You don't need to do all these things just because every company on the street is doing it. Make sure that it is deeply rooted in it. There's a correlation and connection to where your company is going and what you're trying to achieve. Maybe you don't need to do the Claude rollout to every single one of your people and your employees all at once. What is it going to solve and what is it going to deliver? So I think, and when you have that to what you're rolling out, I think that it's going to help you land the plane and stick the messaging, because it's so obvious why we're doing those things, because we've got this big, beautiful place that we're trying to get to. And this is going to take us there faster than we would have ever got there before. So I think speed, again, it's that speed without clarity. It's just chaos. And some leaders, they just want to move fast and they want agents everywhere.
An agent can do that. I'm shut your mouth. Please don't do this today to me. No, I mean, it's true. And I don't know, change is exciting and scary to a lot of people. I mean, something we talked about in prep, and it really stuck with me, is you're right. Leaders do want these tools. They want these agents to just handle this people part of the change for them. But that doesn't actually work. You can't automate the human part of it. Where, as you're watching people try to do this, where are you seeing this break down?
I feel you and I are very aligned on some of these things when it comes to where you can pull AI in versus she don't belong here. Let's keep the humans in the room.
She
doesn't go here. And I believe that where like the whole idea of like an agent coming in and running your change management, like where it breaks is like where it hits human emotion. And I'm not anti-tech at all. Like I got all the LLMs like up. I'm doing it. And I deeply believe that people can and should be using AI in their change management. It is going to make your preparation so much easier, so much more efficient. You can model scenarios, you can analyze risk and draft your communications, organize your rollout. You can even ask your LLM to take a look at what you're about to roll out and say, like, what have I missed? Where are the gaps? So you can do that, but AI can't handle real-time human dynamics. I don't think an agent could read the room and pick up on micro expressions. I just don't see where it's possible. They can't pivot mid-conversation based on like when a temperature changes. So I don't know. There's a whole debate going on the internet. Again, another podcast that we probably could have around like, do people, managers even need to exist anymore? Or like, can agents be managers? And I'm sure that you're seeing this on the internet. And I'm like, are you joking? I would never accept a role at a company where they were like, and your boss will be a robot. I would just be like, no. So, I mean, when my leaders come to me and they're like, isn't there an agent for this? I'm like, if we were doing robot on robot change management, then yes, we could do it. But like, we've got humans in the mix. And for that reason, we need you to be delivering the message. And if my boss sent a robot to tell me about some major shift that was happening, I'd be like, oh, she couldn't take a minute out of her day to come and chat with me. So this is where I like just deeply believe it breaks. And maybe I'm old fashioned. Maybe in 5 years, we'll do a recap and we can see, is that the thing that's changed for me? But for today, I believe humans need to be in the mix.
I wouldn't even accept a role that didn't report directly to the CEO. So like you're telling me the option out there could be to report to a robot. I'm good. At that point, put me out to pasture. I can't be involved in corporate America no more. That's when I officially retire and I go off to write Corporate, the musical. And there's a whole robot on robot scene.
Yeah, totally. Robot on Robot and Corporate the Musical. It could be taken in so many ways.
You heard it here first. We are trademarking Corporate the Musical.
Corporate the Musical.
No,
starring him and Kaity.
It would be so fun. Listen, I've told this story before on the pod, so if you missed this, you're in for a real treat. I took a 12-week adult tap dancing class only to learn that I am not good at tap dancing.
It took 12 weeks.
It took like the first 3 weeks before I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I bought tap shoes. I literally bought at the time a DVD to practice tapping at home, was exploring getting like a wooden square so I could tap in my apartment and not bother the people underneath me.
That's amazing. You were really committed. I love that. I mean, this goes back to me believing you could do anything. It just depends on like, are you in it? Do you want to do it? And it sounds like after a couple of weeks, you were like, I don't know if I want to do this.
I don't think my ankles are made for tapping. You have to have like very loose rhythm ankles. I did also explore this year taking an adult hip hop course, but what I've discovered is I don't want to learn anything other than the Britney Spears routines. So if I could take like a dancing class to learn the choreography of like Drive Me Crazy, I would love that. Just a general hip hop class, I'm not sure it's for me, but every year I do challenge myself with trying to learn like one new thing every year, like not a fact, like an actual skill. And so like adult hip hop class was on the list this year.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I will be joining you on the adult hip hop, but you did. I mean, could we put You Drive Me Crazy in our musical?
Incorporate the
talking
musical.
About, I don't know, senior leaders who want agents or for people who want headless managers. We'll workshop this a little bit.
Why would anyone want to report to a robot? Like genuinely, the best thing about work could be your manager, can also be the worst thing. I have a whole theory on this. Like it could be the worst and it could be the best. And I was telling my direct report the other day, I was like, I've been a really good manager to you. Like maybe I should just like be bad for a few months so you get a taste of it. And she was like, no, I don't want to sign up for that. She's like, no, I read your newsletter. I know the bad managers out there. I'm incredibly grateful for you. Please do not put me through having to experience a bad manager. And I was like, that was really nice of me,
That was really good. Yeah. No, but I did see like there's an HR debate. I saw somebody posting and there's HR team members that are debating and there are people on either side on do managers need to be human or can it be a headless employee? And that to me, I'm interested in going just to hear because for me, it's so obvious, but also, I don't know, maybe I'm not seeing it from the right angle, but for change management, we are keeping humans in the mix. You and I, we have settled it.
Well, because you can't, the one great thing about being human beings, when the robots take over, they will reference this episode. The one great thing about being a human is like, we're complicated, we're messy, and we're also like unpredictable. So you can't do change management and just be like, here's exactly how things are going to go. Because you and I know, and probably anyone listening, you could have the most perfect plan and the most perfect messaging to lay out a strategy, connecting all of the pieces. You deliver it live, you deliver it in writing, you deliver it 5 to 7 times so that people actually get it. And then you know that somebody will inevitably not get it and cause chaos. So it's like, the human beings are so unpredictable. And I just think like because of that, there will always be a human in the loop, or now someone is saying human at the helm is like the new phrase. We're just
human at the helm,
putting humans everywhere. We talked about this a little bit around trust, but when change is managed badly, you have said, maybe I made this up. You've said it's like 10x the work to rebuild the trust.
Yeah.
Walk me through what it looks like to actually rebuild the trust once you've lost it.
Yeah. I mean, again, I admitted early in the podcast early in the conversation that I have had failed change management in my career. I have done it and more times than I can count. And so I have seen how it comes through. And I think consistently, like if I were to bucket it in a couple of ways, I've seen it in 3 different ways. But also I will say that, people who work with me know that I'm a little bit of like a trust nerd. And there's a phrase that I use to people when I'm trying to get them on board for why trust matters. And I say trust is earned in drops, but lost in buckets. And it takes consistency and time to earn trust, but you could do one thing and all that work that you did to earn that trust and build that trust could be spilled in 2 seconds. So, I do think that like the 10x is there, and how I see it come through in change management is in a number of ways. One, when you fail on the messaging, I call it calendar tax, because like that one conversation that you were going to have to land the messaging and then you move forward to the how, it ends up being dozens of late night Slack messages and emergency one-on-ones and team calls and like, again, chaos everywhere that you're like, great, now I've had 15 calls about the same thing that we talked about on that one call. It was supposed to be one 15-minute call and now it's been hours. And it's like, I know it's triggering, right? But we've all been in it. I know. And it's all because of like anxiety and people filling the silence and conspiracy theorists and whatnot. The other way that I've seen it that can be really hard in the workplace is on the talent aspect. So when I think about driving change management and some of the strategies, a lot of times those strategies, they include some of your top performers in order to actually get that strategy through. But when the message hasn't landed with them or we don't bring them along, they start to feel vulnerable, or they're like, maybe I should go because I wasn't included in the decision making, or they don't understand me, or they don't even want me to be here. And rebuilding the trust with some of your top performers, if you don't do it well, can be really, really hard. And I think that you end up losing high performers over things that could be totally preventable. So I see that with high performers. And then the last one is one that I see, and it is like the hardest one for me, I think, as a leader of HR business partners, the long-term scar tissue that you can have with senior leaders or executive leaders, even with like companies in a whole, when you don't land things or you don't do things well, it can be like years and years and years down the road. And you could be delivering a perfect, pristine change management plan with every single thing thought through. But there's that one person that's like, oh, well, don't forget XYZ thing that you forgot 6 years ago. And it's like the thing people just don't forget. And I've seen that happen in the in situations with my direct reports as HR business partners. And it's so hard because it's like, no matter how good they've done and no matter how much great they've delivered, years later, people don't forget that one thing or that one layoff that happened 6 years ago that people are still talking about. And it's like rebuilding that trust can just be so hard.
Yeah. No, once trust is lost, like you're right, it's earned in drops. And I just think, what was the phrase? I'm terrible with phrases.
Earned in drops and lost in buckets.
Yeah. Losing the trust is, so I come from a place where I think like we operate with negative trust with the employees. Like when they first meet HR, they're inherently distrustful of us, rightfully so, because there are a lot of really bad HR teams out there. Every time I post about being in HR on TikTok, on Threads, somebody's like, well, HR did X, Y, and Z to me. And it's something truly awful. Like genuinely, I'm like,
and I believe it. I believe it.
Same. You and I think have seen bad teams. We have maybe experienced them. Like who knows? But like there is a lot of distrust from employees to HR, and I appreciate that. I would never tell them to trust us because the story is not every HR team is trustworthy. But once trust is lost in an environment, what I do is I go to them and I say, "Hey, what can I do to regain your trust?" I'll just talk about it straight up with the employee. I'll be like, I listen, I know you don't trust me. I know our actions have not matched our words. So what can I do so that you know you can trust me? And I always think like, it's okay if they don't trust me. But my goal is to do the things to rebuild it in a way where eventually we could get to a spot where they're maybe not distrustful of me. Maybe they're not truly trustful, which is okay. And I just don't want them to be distrustful, to know that I'm doing bad to them all the time, right? But that trust, once lost, creates so much downstream ripple effects.
Yeah. Trust for me is such an important currency in me being able to do my job effectively. And as soon as I lose trust with leaders or employees or my direct reports, I'm like, I actually don't know that I'm going to be able to be effective in my role if I don't find a way to get that back. So it's not uncommon for me in my role where I'll have a call, we'll be on a call and there'll be an executive and a group of other people and I'm disagreeing with that executive on a call and we'll get off and the next day I'll call them and I'll be like, how's our trust tank looking? Because I know that was a hard conversation, but that actually matters deeply to me. Yeah. And I know like I spilled a little bit out. I just want to let you know, like, let's talk through it because I'm like, it is not going to be the elephant in the room, the unnamed thing. It is so critical to my success, to HR leader success that I'm like, I baby that so much. So in change management, it is something that's really important to me. And it's easy to screw up, but I think you're right. Take accountability, call it out, name it. And I think that alone helps you earn some of that back. Yeah.
The rebuilding though is whew. I do want to say, like, I also think sometimes you won't regain that trust ever. You could do everything right. You could cross your T's and dot your I's and show up and say all the right words and do all the right actions. And you could still not be trusted by that person or the employee. And you just have to accept that that's reality. That sometimes we're in a role that not a lot of people will trust, or trust for some people once broken is almost impossible to regain. That's why I like that it is a currency and I take it so seriously because I'm like, if I break this trust, gaining it back could be impossible. So you have to do everything in your power to keep it, especially as you're going through change management. Cause that's just like change management is one big trust fall exercise. Okay.
Yeah, it really is.
Touch us, what's going to happen? Okay. For somebody who's listening and knows maybe they've been sloppy about their change management, what's one thing they should do differently with their next rollout?
I think acknowledging where you've been sloppy and like learning from it. Just don't repeat behaviors, I think is a really big thing. I personally, again, I think I've talked about preparation and whatnot 100 times on this conversation, but I think that's for me. For me, what I found that I did is I started like a standard playbook, and it's come with me through many years. It's had many iterations, but I have like a standard playbook. And the second that a leader comes to me and says, hey, I've got this big thing I'm going to need your help with, I am like in my drive making a copy of that doc, and I just start putting it in there. And as I go through change management that maybe had a sloppy moment, I add like, what was that thing that I missed on? And I add it to my template so that when I make a copy again, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to forget this thing. But I think like building your own template, prompt your favorite LLM to help you make some baseline framework. But having that, like repeatable resource will be something that will help you and will help ground you, keep you organized. I also love like a single source that everyone that's a part of this gets access to. You can include who's read in, so you don't accidentally talk about it with somebody that wasn't read in. So I'm like just stay organized and have that structure. It will force you to slow down. It will force you to ask the right questions and hopefully help you avoid making any big mistakes.
Obsessed. I also am a template queen. As you know this about me, I'm always like, what's a template I can copy? I be copying my templates left and right all day long and always going back. I love that you go back and you add to it, because the retrospective of it is like, if change is like continually happening, taking a pause, taking a minute and like retroactively looking at what went well and what didn't could be the difference between it going well in the future. And so I love it.
Absolutely.
You go back and add to it.
Yeah. I think that's really important. And I'm a huge advocate of like looking back at any situation, even if I'm like, I crushed that. I'm like, well, if I were to do it again, how could I take it one step further? So I'll ask people around me for feedback. What did you love? What do you think next time we could just like leave out? It was kind of like dead, wasted space. Like it was overkill. So yeah, I'm constantly iterating and changing. In my template, I have templated scripts where I'm like, yeah, we've had to have the same conversation every year. So it's like, I don't even need to rebuild the script. It's in there and then you can just edit it. So yeah, I'm a big fan of my template. I've thought about it. I'm like, I should put this like on my LinkedIn as a resource for other HR leaders or something.
Put it in safe space. Put it in safe space. Somebody will love it there. Somebody would love it there because we eat that stuff up there. We're like the template queens. I'm like, nobody needs to recreate the wheel in HR. Okay. There's a template.
I love that. It's just like when the iPhone came out, there's an app for that. There's a template for that. And it's in safe space. Yes. All right. I'll do that. I'll add it to safe space.
Good. Okay. Well, this is now a bit I do at the end of every episode. For people looking to get in touch with you, where is the best place they can reach you?
I think on LinkedIn. So
you don't say.
Definitely at Kaity Jacobsen. Or if you're in the Phoenix, Arizona area and you're looking to meet other fun girlies in tech like me, join Alta Community. You can go to join-alta.com and see what we're building. But yeah, one of those two places.
Oh my God, I love. Well, Kaity, thank you so much for being on this episode. And also thank you for coming on the future episode, Corporate the Musical, which we will be recording in the next season, next 1 or 2 seasons. We're going to write some music and I'm going to sing it to you. Everybody who listens to this podcast knows I can't sing for shit. So, won't be great, but we'll figure it out.
It's my secret party trick. So maybe you'll bring the dancing, I'll bring in the singing in Corporate the Musical.
I actually can't dance either. So
okay. Well, maybe you'll be our director.
I think I should direct.
Maybe it can be a one-woman show of song and dance, and you can. Dream. Although I don't dance, this is the best I got are my jazz fingers, but I'll work on it. Maybe I'll try tap.
There we go.
Send me your shoes and your board.
You heard it here first. We are releasing a musical, but also we are tapping our way through life. Anyways, Kaity, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.